Hello and welcome everybody to the event. My name is Inga and I'm representing One Click Factory, Microsoft CSP distributor for Central Eastern Europe partners. Our promise stayed the same. As a newly assigned Microsoft Cloud Solution licenses provider for the region, we are not here to sell you licenses, but we're here to build the community together to help you drive your Dynamics business and get the most out of your cloud business. And as a result of that, this is the session. Every month, we try to gather partners together on some sessions that we think partners would find valuable for them. And by all means, the session that we're having today drove the attention, a huge attention from the market. So which Microsoft Dynamics 365 solution, ERP solution, is it Dynamics 365 Business Central or Dynamics 365 Finance and Supply Chain Management works best for your particular customer, for your particular opportunity? If you are not part of our CSP acceleration program, I definitely encourage you to come and join and request for more details. We are ready to support you with more details, and our more than 100 Dynamics specialists in the back are ready to have your back by building the opportunities and getting them to the cloud. For more details, please go to the handouts and grab the document that we prepared for the benefits that are waiting for you. As always, we're going to have 3 experts on the panel. We are planning to have that as engaging discussion, and I know that quite many of you are joining. Please feel free to share your opinion, to suggest topics for next sessions, to argue, to agree, to disagree. For that, you have multiple choices. In the right corner, you see chat. So if you want to share your opinion, let's say you want to say where are you joining from. I know that we have partners not only from Central Eastern Europe joining, but also from other regions. You are welcome to share where you're from. Let us know. It's interesting to know. And then we have questions answers section. If you have a question to the experts, by all means, please share that. We promise all the questions will be answered, whether it will be during the session or after that. But I hope that it will be during the session. And before I introduce the 3 experts on the board, on the panel, I encourage you to take the poll. So is it always clear which ERP solution, Business Central or Finance and Supply Chain Management, works best? The first answer is yes, of course, it's very clear because we have internal process inside the company and we know what to suggest. Then, yes, it's clear because Microsoft has a clear vision. And then, no, both solutions are perfect for the customers, and quite many customers fall into the gray, so-called gray area. And then, no, but in case we are not sure, we ask Microsoft. So let's check the poll results. Of course, the results are changing fast, but at the moment, what I see so far, it's not always clear. I must say I was kind of expected that Business Central partners would jump right away and say, no, it's always clear, or the same with F&O. Looks like the session will be engaging one as it's really not clear, so some kind of definitions are needed. And with that, let's present the 3 experts on board. So first, Petr Karajek, Director of Product Marketing Management Team at Microsoft. Petr, I'm very happy to have you on board. Hello. Once I introduced the topic for the first time, you mentioned right away, well, I'm pretty sure that will drive a lot of attention by partner community. Partners get very enthusiastically even by hear some kind of definitions, comparisons, lists. Why is that? Is there some kind of prehistory on this?
Yeah, definitely there is history with myself. Now in CE, I'm responsible for both products because I'm responsible for ERP products marketing in Central Eastern Europe. So for both Business Central and F&O. For me, it's like if I use football analogy, it's like a country derby. You have in every country, you have 2 famous football teams, typically from capital city, and there is a fight between the fans. And this is something like that sometimes happening on the market from the history, because it was history competition between Navision, Software, and Damgard. I was coming. So acknowledge my historical dress. I was coming from Navision software organization. So I'm Navision guy in the heart. On the other side, I need to acknowledge to F&O guys on this call. I love F&O as well. And I hope that through the call together with the colleagues, we'll be able to bring a little bit more clarity into the whole discussion. I know sometimes it's tough to find. Sometimes partners are very emotional about the outcome of some of the compete discussions, but we will have both products on the market for a long time together, and this is it. So we need to find a way how to collaborate and cooperate and live together, not to fight together so much.
So we heard the first promise. Both solutions will stay on the market for long. Right, Petr?
You see the investment. You have seen the latest Business Central release notes. I think last week it was presented by the Corp team. Wow, what amazing technology is coming there. A lot of innovation. Would you invest into the product if you want to come? No way. It's like there is development in that part. There is development in F&O coming in both. Yes.
Thank you. Well, looking forward to the discussion. Dovydas Cabbages, representing partner Columbus, CEO of the company. Dovydas, when we were talking, you mentioned that there is no better strategy than have both of the solutions in-house. Is that always easy to decide which solution would work best for the particular customer?
Definitely, it's not easy to decide. But then you are the partner which is capable to, delivering, implementing both of the solutions. So you definitely come at the end of the day to the process, whereas you decide how to do it when it comes to recommendation to the customer, which are key to recommend. And I believe we're gonna a bit go deeper afterwards in the, next stage of this discussion. So definitely it's not an easy, but you have to have a process in order to scope of that topic as such.
I see Petr is gone. Where did Petr go?
I'm here. I need to answer something urgent on top of.
Okay, good.
But I will be back. Don't be worried.
So thank you, David.
What better goal to start with the discussion, right?
Right. So Soren, One Click Factory is not dealing with implementation. We don't have end user partnership. It is only the partners that we're working with. But you have been on the Dynamics market. Well, I'm even afraid to think of the number of years that you have been with the partner market, with the community. Are you going to share some insights of what we see in practice, in reality, coming from the market?
Yeah, for sure, of course. So even though we're an indirect provider, we still have both products in our house, or services for both products in our house, and we of course see the differences in those projects that we are part of. Most of our experience here is from our upgrade projects on both platforms, and there are, I would say, quite a lot of differences also in how we actually go to market and handle those kind of projects. So yeah, we'll definitely get into more detail.
Okay, so with that, I suggest we dive deep into the core of the session itself. So Petr, let's start with you. Is there a clear vision that Microsoft could put on the table and say, that's it, dear partners, have it and use it?
Yeah. So first of all, there is like no official Microsoft positioning document. I know that many partners are asking for it and so on, but we should be as well careful to put these type of things like on the market for the competition and so on. So there is, you can read it nevertheless from all the product materials for both F&O and Business Central, what's the Microsoft intention. And I will bring here one type of slide, which I used with some of the colleagues in Microsoft. We have debated it together. So take it a bit as my personal view, but very much reflecting a lot what is coming on the Microsoft side. And I will share my window from the PowerPoint slideshow. This should be this one. And if I share it, you should be able to see it. So first of all, the arrows on the both parts are representing what I said already. We plan to invest heavily into both products. With F&O, we try to invest to bring this product further up, to really become enterprise fully ready solution. I'm telling it like it is not. It is already enterprise ready solution. There is enterprise level functionality, but we need to bring more and more really to satisfy any mid and large organization in the world. With Navision or Business Central, sorry for old naming, this is my bad. So with Business Central, we are investing to even make it still best in mid-market size, but as well allow it to scale further down. And it's very visible in Western Europe, for example, that we are now able to sell to smaller customers where we were able before through the cloud solution, which brings a lot of flexibility for the customers. But we still keep the sweet spot of Business Central, which is sitting in the mid-market size. And especially from the CE perspective, this is typically really mid-sized companies where we can sell this product. If I look at it from some number of potential users, currently, in looking at on-prem world and cloud world, which we sold in last recent, I would say 10 years, the Business Central and Navision typical average user in CE is about 30 users. Yeah, and I know that we have 1,000 user implementation in some countries, and I know that we are able to sell to 5 users, but average, what I have seen from our sales was something about like 30. In Axapta or finance and operation, it's about 113. So this is an average. And the potential in finance and operation is definitely bigger. I know that in Western Europe, US, other markets are selling the F&O really higher. And we have, of course, as well in C, 3,000 users and more in the deals and in the customers. If I will compare on the user level, like 250 is some magic number which we are using internally. It's not a hard technical blocker, so nobody will tell you 251 first user gone. It's not available for Business Central. I believe myself like up to 500 with not strong, deep volume of transactions, good processes, very scalable, can fit in. But in general, if you see more than 250 users, you should start to be careful, look around it, check it. If you compare the solutions from the like enterprise mid-market level, this is one of these things. F&O as well starts on 20 users as a minimum, and then of course goes up. I would say with F&O, I would shoot for 100 plus. So there will be definitely a market where F&O Business Central meet together. I would say 100 to 250 is a market where the compete potential will be there. The other guide, which I would use always is it a local organization or is it multinational organization, which large number of geographies, localization requirement, do they want to put it into single instance, single database, or they will do consolidation? Because I know that in Business Central, you can as well implement multinational company. You just have separate instances, separate databases, and you do some consolidation on top of it. And some customers are happy with that. But typically for really large multinationals, the F&O is more natural choice. Then the vertical functionality. In F&O, there is a lot now out of the box, so you can really take it, implement it with limited customizations, while Business Central is very much built on the external ISVs, on you as a partner is building some specific vertical or horizontal functionalities and putting it into that one. So that's as well a point where some customers prefer the option one. Some customers are fully okay with having it through ISV. Then scalability, this is really going to high volume of transactions, big workloads, and so on. Here, admitting I have seen 1,000 user retail Business Central customers working like on heavily transactions, but I have seen there as well a lot of performance issues. So if you would ask me to sell to this customer with 1,000 users, I would not go there with Business Central. That's like pretty clear guidance, especially when the company wants to grow. There is a scalability expected. I would not go with that. I would really put it on F&O because the core for Business Central is in this mid-market part. As well, what we are adding now, a lot of so-called industry clouds. You heard recently Microsoft Cloud for Retail, Microsoft Cloud for Manufacturing, and the F&O is part of this cloud heavily because we deliver a lot of out-of-the-box products like commerce and e-commerce, which we delivered recently, and more is coming. So with that, this is definitely one of the distinction points. Nevertheless, for me as well, the biggest guidance is the line at the bottom. Who is the external competitor in the deal? Is it a big SAP? I mean, SAP for HANA, SAP R3 historically. Or is it a SAP Business One? Is it some small local competitor? Then as well, you typically choose which solution goes there. Yeah. And I'm not telling that we cannot win with Business Central versus SAP, don't take me wrong. But like if there is a big SAP, I typically go with finance and supply chain. That's like very shortly from my point of view, and I'm happy to take any discussions around this. And of course, the colleagues will have some additional views, so we can build on their views, and then we can like bring it together. Acknowledging there will be always place to like meeting the solutions together in some part of the market, as I mentioned.
So this is one view. Actually, One Click Factory has invested the time as well, and we build based on what we heard on the market, based on what we see from the market, from some information. We build a guideline, additional one for you to have a look and maybe that you will find that helpful as well. So if you are interested to see the comparison that we see at One Click Factory, please go to the handouts and download it for you. And now, dear partners, so Petr has shared his personal view. Do you agree with that? Do you disagree? Now you have the chance to ask these additional questions to Microsoft and of course to Dovydas, who is about ready to share partners view that not always get in the alignment with Microsoft view, right, Dovydas? I know that you will be sharing some internal processes as well on how are you deciding.
Right. I believe if to kind of try to start, let's say, answering the topic itself, do I, for example, share Microsoft view? Yes, I share as general, let's say, guidelines for the salespeople, how to position, and basically Petr kind of mentioned several points, right? How the salesman should position themselves if the SAP is present or not, let's say, in the competition. But if to look, let's say, from our angle, I believe then you have two products in your, let's say, basket, and you want to come up with, let's say, a certain recommendation. So it comes basically to the point where how do you approach customer? Do you hit them with the paper? I mean, Microsoft paper, and leave him to make them decision, or you basically want to go an extra mile? And as it is written here, let's say one of the slides from my slide deck, we want to assist customer in decision-making process. And in our case, let's say in partner, we try to assist customer by providing the full information of total cost of ownership. And that is in both cases, one let's say FRD is available and then the FRD is not available. So that means it is in both cases where the customer is mature enough, then he approaches the partners already with a functional requirement document. So usually, in one case, we hit them with, let's say, 5 different, let's say, scenarios. That is basically 3 scenarios for Business Central, which is one of them is cloud, another is on-prem. The third one is rental, whereas basically we provide them possibility to have Business Central on private cloud, like One Click Factory, for example, right? And another 2 scenarios are for F&O. I still use that word, and that is also 2 options for cloud and on-prem. So usually you want to come to the point whereas you evaluate those, let's say, cost lines, which I'm writing with my mouse. So you want to put that in total cost of ownership licenses, grab when it comes to, of course, on-prem licensing, implementation cost, customizations and integrations, migrations, if it is on-prem option. So you will have certain migrations to take into account. The longer you will take the TCO period, so the more migrations you will have to include in the calculations to make them precise. So of course, then it is also part of the customer to agree, should we include in the TCO support? And then, of course, in the infrastructure, Azure. So that is the topics you should, let's say, definitely touch. Then the FRD is not available. You do understand that some of the cost lines you will not be able to evaluate in TCO, like customizations, if there is no functional requirements, or migration itself, since we need the full scope. So that is our view, that you have to come to the customer. There's certain comparison, and in our case, that is basically total cost of ownership, because that is exactly how much the customer should be ready to spend. Should have budgeted in their budget. And if to come from additional points, I would say to Petrus, what we believe that has a great impact is definitely those criteria, which was also Piotr mentioning, like geography and localization itself. So I have another slide, I believe, here. So that is, I believe, a good overview. So if you look at that, in most of the cases, that is the number of countries, right, from 1 to 48 in this case. So you see that Microsoft is already giving you a possibility of having localization if you would choose to go with finance and operation. But if you are about to think about Business Central, so you will find that not all the countries are covered by Microsoft localization. And for example, if you will have implementation to be done in Latvia, Lithuania, let's say Portugal, you will be ready, or you should be ready to spend, or the customer should be ready to spend a bit money on the localization. And here is a link for the full details. And on top, you see that basically there are 18 countries, whereas the localization is done by partners, which at the end of the day means that extra cost the customer should be ready to pay. So that is one, localization and geography. So the higher the number of the localizations the customer has activities, I mean, not just activities, but basically offices as a legal structures, the bigger need of localization will appear, and which means at the end of the day, additional cost. So that would be one. Second one, I believe, of course, the ability to attribute correct user types. So you do, I believe, all the partners know that there are different user types, some 3 user types in Business Central, some 4 in F&O. I mean, there is an additional device as such as a row. So you should be ready as a partner to make correct attribution. Then you have, let's say, 40 users. So how to attribute them correctly, because there's a different price tag for each of the row. So that is the second one. The third one, I believe, ability to evaluate correctly standard implementation scope. So you should be ready to do that independing of let's say, how many areas you should cover. So you should be ready to give yourself a question. For example, what would be your standard implementation scope if the customer is not willing, let's say, to implement manufacturing functionality? So if you have a clear answer on that one on both of the platform, okay, you are able to meet that third, let's say, criteria, in my opinion. Then there are additional 2, in my opinion. That is the fourth one, ability to evaluate correctly customizations and integrations in both of the platforms in order to compare them evenly. And the last one, not the least one, is ability to evaluate infrastructure correctly. As I see from my practice, not all the cost, let's say, pieces are taken correctly into calculation. If you want to run those, let's say, TCO and correctly. So that would be my, let's say, as a partner, let's say, feeling on the topic itself. Does it sound logical, Inga?
I think yes, let's ask partners. So Phil from UK is saying that he finds the discussion very valuable. Happy to hear. But partners, please, if you agree, if Dovydas missed some other points, maybe you are using a different view at your in your organization, please share that. The community would find it helpful and appreciate. And Dovydas, you mentioned about TCO, and I think this is the topic that Soren is ready to share as well. So Soren, from your perspective, looking from your perspective, do you think it's always easy to understand and to make the decision which customer is more suitable for which solution?
So I think Petra hit kind of the nail on the head when he said that there is a gray area from 100 to 250 users. I think it gets easier when you get towards 1,000 users to make the right decision. And if you get to around 1 or 2 users, like my wife's recent business, then you choose Business Central, right? So so that's, I think, and those things are quite easy when you get in that area. So it is in the middle where you have the gray space. And that's, of course, where you need to be extra careful. Besides TCO, which I'll come back to, there is a dimension of vertical solutions available. I think the way I look at the finance and supply chain solution, it has been built more for larger companies that have multiple industries built in. But if you have one industry only and you're not that big a company, there's usually a very specific vertical solution available on Business Central. And I think that's another dimension to take in. And it goes a bit to TCO, because beside the TCOs that David has discussed, which is very, very relevant, there is the hidden cost TCO. This is the work that the organization does. And the more efficient that the organization can do the work, the lower the TCO will be. And you can kind of imagine if you take a 15-user organization and you put them through all the process and also all the data structure that needs to be maintained in a finance and supply chain solution, then for that little organization, the TCO will probably increase quite dramatically. But if you take that organization and you put it into a Business Central solution that was built for their specific vertical, then of course the TCO will go down. So I think that's another dimension to evaluate it on. It's take a trip to AppSource and look around what kind of vertical solutions are there. I think that's a good suggestion. And then I would say that, of course, on the maintenance side, and David has already touched that, the upgrade or the maintenance part of it is an important part of the TCO. Our expertise in that area shows that it's probably 10, 12, 15 times more expensive to maintain your finance and supply chain solution than your Business Central solution. And that's of course okay if you have 10, 15 times as many users on it. Then the price per user is okay, but it's something to be considered, of course, in that regard.
We have a partner who is adding a comment. Yuri, thank you for another criteria that the selection based on the business process which we want to automate should be done not necessarily on active users. Would you agree that's a fair comment?
I think, yeah, of course, you need to take into account the business process. I have seen companies with a lot of financial transactions, but 20 users. And this company probably still deserves, like, even if you would put it like typical on Business Central, based on complication in integration, transaction volume, maybe put it on F&O, and vice versa. I've seen customers with like universities, typically are these case of customers where you have plenty of users, but they log in only few times per day or something like that. So 1,000 users at university doesn't create a huge workload, and you can easily have it on Business Central. I've seen customers like that. So definitely, you need to consider what's happening there, what the process requirements are. I would definitely always check the level of transactions which are behind, because sometimes you have some automated process which creates the transactions additionally.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So now we have like three different.
I mean, just like to reflecting to Piotr on this specific question. So I would say in like practical thing, let's imagine that you're buying the car. So you do not choose the car just of one criteria, let's say, based on the active number of a user. You come and choose the car, and you definitely understand that some producers, they are giving more rich base version, while another one, they don't give you that rich. And then depending on your need, whether you need air conditioning, roof, convertible, so you do have to spend more time on getting your needs in paper, what exactly you need from that car. Should it be like a summer car, or should it be all season car? So you do invest a bit, right? So you do try to figure out what are the actual needs, rather than just, okay, my active number users are 2, me and my wife.
Then your wife gets to decide, eh?
Yeah, and the color would be
Actually, a very good example with the car. And this is another set of questions that I would like to dive deep. So should the customer know which car do they want? Or should it be the partner who says, well, this is the car, works best for you. So, Peter, what is your opinion? Is that partner who decides which solution should be best and then suggests, here, this is the best choice for
I
you?
think we are not selling commodity in this business, yeah. So I think you are selling your service, and you are even in this world of cloud, and when everything is speed up and implementations are shortening, agile process and everything, you still want to be trusted advisor to the customer. This way you will win. This way you get the customer in. And I still feel myself, and I can be wrong, and people on the call correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you cannot get trusted advisor when you come to the customer and say, I can offer you this meal and choose. In this case, trusted advisor comes, I can offer you the 2 meals potentially, but here is what I propose. Here is what I really strongly believe in is the right solution for you. And if you ask for the other one, I will almost step in. I'm able to deliver, but I trust that for your company, this is the solution. So I think partner should go with one selected and stay with that for that period of time.
Dovydas, we had this discussion with you as well, where you said at Columbus, our salespeople are the most educated on the process, and they present the solutions in the best way for the customer. And then, even though the final decision is made by the customer, it's still the sales people that drive customer to that decision. Can you elaborate more on that, on the process that you are taking at Columbus?
Yeah, I would say. In basically what you do, you invest a lot in the sales personnel, let's say sales project managers, which at the end of the day are capable of challenging the buyer with a set of questions which are basically important in order to understand the customer needs, rather than the customer itself is able to tell you what exactly he is looking at. So you should be able to ask, no, what is your price, your cash price? Do you use what is your preference? You try to figure out with the different questions what is the actual need, and only then you try to agree on the let's say work on the process, how you're gonna do it, whether you're gonna build this PCO model, or is it not possible at this stage, and they already have a mindset where we do have maybe personnel which is used to work with the vision. And most likely they will not be keen to switch it, and that's already a kind of a big barrier to us. So you basically invest a lot in the salespeople, and then hoping for that outcome that they are coming with the right questions to specific type of customers. They do not afraid to ask the challenging questions.
Okay. Before I address with the question,
can I elaborate a little? Can I elaborate a little bit on the sales stuff? So I think it's definitely the partner's role to be a consultant in the process, right? I think as you get bigger and bigger companies that you engage with, they will have more of an opinion themselves. They won't. They will have done their own homework on why they want which pieces and so on. I think just to add on the sales approach, I think that there is a very big difference in how to sell to a customer that is in the market for a finance and supply chain management solution, and that's where you will also be able to make a split. So typically, Business Central customers are looking for opportunity to grow, opportunity to speed in the market, more productivity, and so on. And it's not really because finance and supply chain customers are not looking for that as well, but they're looking for something on top that most Business Central customers wouldn't think about, which is risk management. So they'll ask a ton of questions around the length of the project, what can go wrong, how to have a plan B, a C, and D. And if you can talk to the risk side of this thing, then you can also sell finance and supply chain management solutions. If you cannot talk to the risk side, then I think Business Central is the right market. Then you can talk to the opportunity side of things.
Even add a bit. So if you would be able to ask what is the business development perspective whether you plan to grow within the 5, let's say, years into 5 different countries, that's already a bit, you're putting a more weight on the F&O rather than on Business Central. So that is basically how you train your salespeople with the right questions, depending on the, let's say, customer side setting people. Is it an owner or is it a CEO? So to whom to talk and how to talk.
Yes, salespeople's education, definitely. But you touched a very good point. Actually, well, I am talking to quite many partners on the market, and I can share the question that I recently hear quite often from NEV Business Central community. So should we start adding finance and supply chain management to our portfolio already, so that we have both solutions in that? And Soren, we had that discussion. What is your view? You have both solutions in-house, One Click Factory. Would you say that's a good idea for NEV community, Business Central community, to start thinking, or vice versa, to start to have both solutions in place?
I think it's not something you just do. Finance and supply chain management. No, a finance and supply chain management practice is not a two-man shop. It's not. You need to have 15, 20 people that have different kinds of expertise for you to be, I would say, credible in front of the customer. So, and that doesn't mean that you can't build it over time, but if you don't have a plan of how you will get to that kind of critical mass, you will always be struggling and your business won't really be performing well, and you will probably not be making profit. So it is, from a business perspective, something you have to think really hard about and have a good plan for if you want to go into a finance and supply chain management business. That would be my take on that topic.
Petr, would you agree? Or maybe you would like to add to that? What's your recommendation for partners who are considering this opportunity? Petr, we don't hear you.
We lost the sound, yeah.
Let me see. Yeah, now it should work. It was on the device. It was not on the computer. So, fully agree with Soren. You cannot build a F&O shop how we built historically Business Central partners. I remember I was doing recruiting in Navision Software. So typically we trained 3-4 consultants and this was it. You know, with Cloud F&O, you need a lot of architects, a lot of engineers as well on the technical side, because it's not so easy to put this product, especially if you take some robust retail scenario, on like cloud with one person on the technical side. This is not doable. You need to have really scale. From Microsoft perspective, I would say as well, look at the size of the customers, the segment, if you will, where you are selling. So if you want to really touch enterprise customers, sell to high-profile big companies, you will probably not live there on this segment without F&O, because as well, Microsoft is now very clearly co-selling in these segments. And you get the support from Microsoft sellers for the F&O to these big customers. If you want to serve mid-market, small, medium business, no problem with Business Central there. So I would take this aspect into consideration as well. Not talking about like size of users, but size of the company. Like if it's big enterprise company, you'll probably less and less be successful in these companies with Business Central. Of course, you can sell Business Central to some department of that big company, or hub and spoke model. This is doable. We have Business Central in many of these companies, but if you want to have it as a core system and be a big system integrator, this is it. As well, look at your competition in the system integration space. Who you want to compete with, who you are competing with. Are those the big GSI system integrators type of, you can beat them sometimes? Or is it rather local, small companies, rather flexible? This is as well putting into the decision which product to place.
Davidas, would you like to add?
Yeah,
you have both live business lines, of course.
If you would ask, should you build a X practice? So in my opinion, that's basically a question whereas you to find in what position you are. First one, what is your size? So if your business size is, I don't know, 15 people, so basically you have an answer that to build an X practice, you need additional 15 to hire. So that is one. If you have already 100, so I believe it's much easier because you already have let's say, technical guys running a bit, and they already have some skills and competences. So definitely one thing, a criteria, what is your size? Another one, I would say, is the market you're operating in. What is the trend in the market? Is your customers are growing? They are fast growing? If they are, most likely the next platform is going to be F&O, especially when they expand and etc. If you are in the position whereas the market is small and the trends are not clear, so should you make a bet on something which is not clear? I mean, this is not a lottery. You should make a reasonable, grounded decision. Do you want to invest somewhere whereas you don't see the outcome? And additionally, I would say the barriers, the languages. So if you are English speaking and that is your home language, most likely that's something positive influencing that you should be considered more harder because you have a potential to do implementations outside your country, whereas everybody speaks your language. So I would say that is a great benefit for Spanish-speaking countries, English-speaking countries, Russian-speaking countries. So that is a bit a different twist, in my opinion.
Definitely,
Yep.
But a good one.
Yeah, thank you. And now I would like to quickly review the comments because we have quite many comments popping in. Yuri sharing that the selection based on the business. Okay, Yuri was quite active. We should award you, Yuri, for the most active partner. Marius is sharing, I'm not sure that business process is relevant criteria for the decision because definitely and more criteria needs to be considered. Of course, that we have covered already. Already there are quite many angles. One Click Factory had prepared some guides, one way on the criteria to look at. Definitely there is no single criteria. Then Slavian, what about some industry that needs ERP that is certified by medical or other authorities? Business Central and F&O, we are not certified, and we have problems finding third-party add-ons as well. Peter, maybe you would like to comment on that one?
Yeah, I already commented in the chat that this is potentially, you need to really consider if there is a market space for creating a solution, because if there is no ISV solution on top of Business Central F&O, then this is price space to come in. If the certification is super difficult, if it's like something what you cannot repeat, then I would still consider maybe do it for one customer implement the certification. Of course, depends on the country legislation. I have seen countries where you cannot register simple implementation, it should be the vendor. In other cases, I have seen that legislation requires single implementation always to be certified regardless of the vendor. So it depends on specific situation there, but and sometimes we need to give up because Microsoft typically drives the certification for like technological part. So we have a lot of ISO certification in both F&O Business Central to comply with GDPR and these type of things. But typically for industry certification, this we are leaving really in the partner channel on the customers to deal with. So that's for your decision if you go into this business, these deals, create a solution which you can replicate further or not.
Okay, and then we have Trevor, who is sharing his view and tips and asking whether there will be any thoughts on this. I have always started from a high level with two main questions for my prospect. Do you have an IT department, technical business analyst, or have any IT person? Very hard to manage finance and supply chain day to day without an IT department. Then the next question, do you need shared services, ex-global supply chain manager, centralized accounting team, and so on? It is possible in Business Central where you log in and out of each company and transact them separately. Any thoughts on this?
I think
sorry, you would like to add. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think those two are two very good questions you can ask on top. I think they are very right, and I especially like this shared services view and things. I do agree that finance supply chain has a bunch of functionality that can cater for cross-group service functions.
No, I would say that is simple. The more you teach your salespeople, to put on the table the right questions, the better you have understanding on the customer needs, what exactly he's looking for time being what he is looking for 5 years perspective. Definitely.
And then we have Yuri, who is commenting on the car example and sharing his personal story. The partner should hear the business description and do the advice to the customer, which we agree to. Approximately 1 year ago, I heard the car assembling company selecting DC, but I said it's not possible to use it for your business processes, and you must select finance and supply chain management. They didn't agree, and this year they are already implementing finance and supply chain management. Again, this goes back to what Petr was sharing. Partners should be working as trusting advisors. The time will come, they will come back, or they will learn from their mistakes, and then of course they will remember the partner who gave them initial good example in the beginning.
Yeah, I would say definitely there is no need to win all the possible prospects opportunities in the market, because some of them they should not be even won, because some of them you should leave it for a while they will come to certain maturity, right?
Yes,
because
exactly.
Time being, they might go for, I don't know, homemade solution. Why they will come to a certain level, they will be qualifying for, I would say, Microsoft ERP, any of those. Because if you have like 2 people business, that does not necessarily mean that you should have a Microsoft ERP.
Exactly. Yep. And we have one more question with Business Central versus Finance and Supply Chain Management. Well, we tried to make that session not one versus another, but rather which would work best. But how would you see the split of positioning if a customer has requirements with a wider Dynamics 365 stack, such as field services, portals, or project operations? Microsoft do seem to be focusing on seamlessly integrating finance and supply chain management with these tools. But in theory, it is a customer. If a customer has field service requirements, that should take a complexity from the ERP system. And therefore, a more simple finance solution such as Business Central should be a better fit. I was hoping after Microsoft split the Dataverse integration and the Dynamics 365 sales integration as 2 setups in Business Central that would then enable us to add additional integrations on top of the Dataverse, such as field services and standard. So, Petr, I see that you're nodding your head. Most likely you would like to comment on this.
Yeah, I cannot comment, unfortunately, on the detailed technical piece of the integration. What I've seen in the recent announcement of Business Central, which was like last week, there is a lot of focus of the team to further develop the functionality of Business Central, as well integrating with the rest of Microsoft portfolio, with Teams and so on. I think we have now pretty good integration with Sales Professional. So this is one thing which comes in there. I don't think that field service is like next on top. It will probably take some time. I as well doubt if you have field service requirements, you're probably a pretty big organization because it's a complex business. You have as well probably manufacturing, very strong behind. And in this case, you need very strong manufacturing system in the background. Again, I'm not dismissing Business Central, but there will be probably statistically more scenarios where you need F&O integration with field service, very deep one, versus like the Business Central. You can still integrate it like manually, because if it's small ERP requirements, then there is less requirement to integrate, and this can still live together. But I don't think that we will be coming in soon with field service project operation integration for Business Central.
Thank you, Petr, for the comment.
I cannot speak for product group, but what I see and what's my personal feeling is still this scenario leads rather to the F&O space.
Thank you. We don't have too much time, but yet I would like to dive deep into the challenges side, the most exciting topic, at least for me. So, Petr, you mentioned there are certain situations while choosing one or the other, partners get into some conflict situation, and Microsoft then has to stand in between, deciding and helping partners out. What are these situations, and how partners should be avoiding them?
I think it depends. I know that segmentation of Microsoft is not interest of the customer and partners. This is true. But we have like internal segmentation of the customers, and on the enterprise and corporate customers, which are like big mid-sized companies. Enterprise, you can imagine, those are the top companies in the country. Imagining like in country like Czech Republic, this is probably 40 customers. Then you have like hundreds of customers sitting on corporate and thousands in the SMB. And in SMB, there can be very big deals. So we have different sales approach in Microsoft towards these customer segments, and it's easy to ignore it, which like I agree with the fact that customers shouldn't know how they are segmented. This is not the way how they should think, and the same partners should not be interested how we are segmenting customers. Nevertheless, if you are ignoring it fully and trying to go against the Microsoft sales process, it will hit the wall somewhere together. It can go smooth and it cannot not fit. So I suggest to really, on the bigger customers, to work very closely with the Microsoft sales team, because in those cases, the Microsoft sales team will be somehow involved. Now, every seller in Microsoft has quota on selling Dynamics. This is a big difference versus 5 years ago when we were really silo business, where Dynamics team was doing Dynamics and we were sitting like somewhere on the back of the company. Right now, every seller in Microsoft has Dynamics quota. Sometimes it's create very difficult situation in the sales process, I need to admit, but it's improving year and year. And this year I feel very good about it. And the partners who are open and share and discuss with the Microsoft first don't get into the conflict. And here Microsoft can support. For the big customers, we have technical specialists, but they are really trained in F&O. So this is as well what we expect to enterprise customers. We are selling F&O. We are not going there with Business Central. There are some few examples where we sold, for example, to one university, Business Central, and it was fully 100% supported by the partner, but Microsoft sales was supporting the sales process. So this is a scenario. In mid-segment, in the corporate, we have as well specialists who are supporting the partners in the sales, and we have in Dublin, English-speaking technical specialist team, again for F&O. If you talk about Business Central, we don't have like local people able to support you. We don't have even Dublin specialists for Business Central because we really position Business Central as 100% partner business. It doesn't mean that Microsoft will not support you in the sales process, but don't expect from them technical presentation. Don't expect from them like semi-technical engagement in the deal, which in F&O you can potentially expect on the bigger deals, bigger customers. So that's, I would say, something that the guidance here and advice is work very actively with the Microsoft team. If you have customer, check with them into which segment it fits and which support you as well can get from Microsoft. And you can be sometimes surprised which support you finally from Microsoft get in the sales process, which is improving versus the past.
I would agree with that. I hear very good stories from the partners sharing that the support they receive from Microsoft is really big. Thank you. Dovydas, you mentioned you had your own challenges. What are these challenges that partners are facing in the process?
I definitely agree with Piotr that I even could call it a challenge, because this knowledge how to work with Microsoft, it is a challenge itself. You know, in the light of different channels, different setup, customer segmentation, which is not always even a right one, but nevertheless, that is a challenge, I believe, whereas we will be able to see some changes or some let's say improvements. From my point of view, if to come to relapse implementation, so definitely the first thing, what kind of support I can get from Microsoft, and here I believe the speed of communication is something of improvement in both cases. Even whereas you can expect support, the speed of support is something whereas we see challenges. Another topic, it is then you have to find, let's say, ESV, independent software vendor, solutions for specific cases. So what you do, you go to the, let's say, app source, and what you find over there is amazing. It's a lot of everything, and not necessarily that is apps over there. So the reality is like, whoa, there is a lot of 2,000 apps if you go for, let's say, Business Central and F&O currently. But in reality, out of those 2,000, I checked yesterday, I summed up, what is the reality in real sense? What are the real apps? And how to make this purchase through the app source. I would say that is an app source where a challenge, whereas Microsoft should solve within, let's say, next few years, because here's monetization itself is missing.
Yep.
If you're already a partner, right? If you're already a customer, how to buy it?
Yep.
We agree. Yes, challenge.
And definitely that could be a very nice topic for the next panel discussion.
I already wrote it down, dear partners. We have probably you can expect this topic to appear for the June. we have the topic for May announced already. Soren, what are challenges that you see from your side?
So I think. I think for me the challenge that I thought a lot about was more the market challenge, right? So and what does that mean? Well, I was wondering why the Business Central partners are even considering to build a finance and supply chain management department. In the end, I would say that in the small and medium-sized area, up to 250 users, if we took that kind of range, and especially in Eastern Europe, you cover quite a lot of the market, right? And you can monetize the investments you've already done in Business Central. And so I was thinking there must be a challenge there. And I think the challenge is probably how we go to market, how we make ourselves visible. And that's something we can probably work on together, partners and One Click Factory. We have a part of that share as well. So how do we make the Dynamics business and maybe the Business Central business for the Business Central partners more visible in the market? I think Microsoft is through their direct sales motion making the finance and supply chain management business quite visible for the large customers. So I think maybe there's not that much work for us there. But that was an interesting challenge to think about. How do we make the Dynamics business more visible?
Mm. We also have another question from Pavel. In what extent the number of users and documents should be prevailing factor of choice? I mean, if we have, I scroll down, if we have a customer from functional perspective is 100% Business Central, but is far too large, 300, 500 users, should we rather try to scale up Business Central or inform them that they should go for supply chain management?
By my opinion, it depends as well which industry it is, what is the transaction volume at the customer, how many orders, how many posting clients they created. There will be probably a big difference if this is a retail customer with huge, and it depends as well which type of retail. If you are retail with jewelry and you sell one piece for 100,000 euro, then you have one piece. Or if you are selling some small components like pens, then we have a lot of transactions. So these type of things come into the game. And I would be careful with the 500 users, high volume transaction for Business Central. If it's 500 users, low volume of transactions, industry which is not like this quick response and performance troubleshooted industry, I'm probably still very good with 300, 500 users on Business Central. But it's getting to the edge. It's getting to the point where, for example, internally, if we see this type of users on Business Central, we try to go through some support team or technical team to double check on does it fit? Yeah, because this starts to be a this edge where this needs to be really checked.
I would agree on that. I think sorry, I mean, if that is the only information available on the prospect, on the opportunity, that you don't have anything else, it's just this number. So I believe then it's definitely, the information that you are coming closer to the edge, but still Business Central is possible.
Yep.
But I believe, in reality, you do have more information behind, much more, in order to be able to guide the customer towards one or another platform. It's not only this number or this information piece you have it in your pocket, definitely.
Yeah, and I would say an important thing is to think about the future of the customer. So it's not only about selling it for what they want to do today. An ERP solution is something you invest in for 7 to 10 years at least, right? And you need to think about where the company strategy is for those 7 to 10 years.
You need to invest in their car, thinking about your wife, what exactly she is going to be willing to drive for another 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. Or she will come back and want to change in 2, and that's too expensive.
Yeah, after 2 months, she's going to come back saying,
Yeah. Okay, we're running out of time, but I would like you to add one last recommendation or thought that you want the audience to take with you. Petr, I will start with you. What is the one thing that you say, if there is anything to know, I want you to have this?
Yeah, I love the passion around both products. Both products will be developed further. So this is, I think, great news from last year's from Microsoft that the Business Central is going as well further on and further on with development. In any doubt, connect with your local Microsoft sales office. They are as well hunting for customers willing to spread Microsoft Dynamics across, and you together will find the best solution for the customer. This is the important thing to finally satisfied customer together.
Thank you. Dovydas, what is your key takeaway for the audience?
Yeah, I would say, in my opinion, what we should be looking at as a partners is definitely the position, the situation where the customer considers us as a trusted advisor at the end of the day. We should act in that and such way, whereas we believe that we bring the value with our consultations and recommendations. That would be my biggest wish for everyone. Consult in such a way whereas you really believe that this is a long-lasting relationship, whereas you need to work with this customer like a small marriage, right? You need to do everything right.
Cars, marriage, we are so good at making analogies. Soren, what is your one key takeaway?
Well, I would encourage people to contact us if they need some help on sales of Business Central. It seems they can get a lot on the finance and supply chain from Microsoft, but if they need some help on Business Central, I think we would be happy to help with that for sure. So.
Sure. You stole my line. That was me.
No, this is important. This is important, Inga, because as I said, there's no 100% support from Microsoft to Business Central. One click is here. Partners can really bet on you. This is like something. Yes. This is a good marriage, I would call it, from our side.
Yeah, so I would definitely invite partners to join One Click Factory CSP Acceleration Program, as we have experts available to consult and to guide you through the process, to help you make the decision, to help you understand of what is behind the scenes, what challenges, what risks are there, and what benefits are there for you. Thank you again for joining. It was a pleasure to have all you on board. Petr, Soren, Dovydas, lovely discussion. I hope that partners find that valuable. And for the dear partners who are joining, please register to our next discussion that will be focused on managing our subscription-based customers. What loyalty programs do we have in place? How do we make sure that we don't kill our profitability on the way? Looking forward to seeing you in the next month discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.